I would like to begin by thanking the Prime Minister Kishida and the GFSA Commissioner Kurita for inviting me to participate in this inaugural meeting. It's a great honor. And I would also like to thank Hideki Takada for that kind introduction. During my visit to Japan late last year, I had the honor of discussing with the Prime Minister the net zero transition and Japan's pivotal role in supporting a just and orderly transition, including by building a financial system. And we discussed how all of this can help deliver the thriving and sustainable economies of tomorrow. The Prime Minister invited GFANZ to support the Asia Gx Consortium, and I'm delighted to join the inaugural meeting today. The GFANZ Japan chapter held its inaugural Japan summit yesterday, on the 12th of March, and was joined by high-level representatives from across Japan's financial system. They gathered to discuss the GFANZ Japan chapter statement, a net zero call to action from committed financial institutions in Japan to their local and global stakeholders. They discussed the urgency to implement 2030 interim targets. GFANZ and our Japan chapter remain committed to supporting the Japanese government and industry across all of these endeavors. The Asia Gx Consortium has brought together policymakers, financial institutions, industry, and multilateral development banks to focus on how to translate commitments into action, to remove barriers, and to create the incentives for financial institutions and industry to unlock real economy emissions reductions. And progress is being made. The emissions curve is beginning to bend, but we know we need to do much more to reach climate justice. And that will require financial innovation that will help us build the sustainable, inclusive economies that our citizens deserve. As I said at the inaugural GFANZ Japan Summit yesterday, I applaud Japan's leadership and partnership in helping the world to close three critical gaps in data, in action plans, and investment. Japan has led in data and disclosure, first as an early adopter of the TCFD recommendations, and more recently by formally supporting the ISSB framework through the launch of the Sustainability Standards Board of Japan. Now, that climate disclosure data needs to be accessible to all. And that's the point of the Net Zero Data Public Utility, whose proof of concept was launched at COP28. It will provide freely available, accurate, transition-related financial information so that everyone can chart progress. The JFSA's support has been integral to the launch of the utility, and I look forward to your continued contributions as we advance this development. The second gap is around action and action plans. Every country, city, company, financial institution needs a credible science-aligned net zero transition plan in order to fulfill their commitments. And of course, transition finance goes beyond supporting clean energy and other climate solutions to go where the emissions are and back those companies with credible transition plans to get them down, and if they can't, to fund the managed phase-out of stranded assets. GFANZ is helping to mainstream this imperative. This year, over 250 major financial institutions will set out their transition plans, including Japanese financial institutions like MUFG, Daiichi, and Mizuho. In addition, the Asia Gx Consortium will publish a collection of case studies on transition finance. The Japanese government has provided much needed clarity to investors by setting out what credible transition means for its issuance of the world's first sovereign transition bonds. Ultimately, in order to reduce the carbon in our atmosphere, we have to close the third gap, which is the investment gap. That means a tripling of clean energy capacity by the end of this decade. It requires huge investment in heavy emitting sectors such as steel, chemicals, shipping, and heavy-duty transportation. And these are industries that face many challenges. They're both carbon intensive, and they're hard to electrify. They have regulatory constraints, and there's an urgent need to pool green demand. With nearly 80% of Japan's GHG emissions originating from high-emitting sectors, the Japanese government, along with industry leaders, can chart the way for pioneering solutions and pathways to decarbonization in the region, including through support of the Industrial Transition Accelerator that was launched at COP28. The ITA brings together leadership across industry, finance, and governments to overcome the challenges in these heavy emitting sectors. We're going to focus on green demand, value chain optimization, integrating new energy sources, and driving green industrial policies in order to attract transition finance on the huge scale that's required. I'm also pleased by the support that the Japanese government and Japanese financial institutions have shown in the Just Energy Transition partnerships, and I look forward to scaling the financing to the energy transition projects in the regions. To conclude, the work you're doing could not be more important to our citizens. Accelerating the net zero transition will impact every sector. It will require huge investment, unprecedented collaboration of policymakers, financial institutions, companies, and civil society. But the rewards are great. A secure, sustainable energy system, more competitive economy with better jobs, higher growth, and a brighter future for our children and grandchildren. In all respects, Japan is leading, and I look forward through your efforts to continuing that track record. Thank you.